In the first year of the Blair government, this task fell to Janet Anderson, who's just published her missives in a volume called Dear Queen. BBC Radio 4 has dramatised a small selection of Janet's more piquant offerings.
Wednesday, 8th of April. Your Majesty. Last day before the Easter Hall, so suffice it to say that honourable members are demob happy. At 3 p.m, Madam Speaker announced questions to your Prime Minister. Only today it was your Deputy Prime Minister and Secretary of State for the Environment, Transport and the Regions. When does he sleep?
2 million jobs being lost from our manufacturing sector.
And when John Bercow, a rather odious little Tory MP from Buckingham, tried to provoke your Deputy Prime Minister, he certainly got a reaction. This was the man, he boomed, who had been chairman of the National Federation of Conservative Students when Norman Tebbit closed it down because it was
too right-wing.
More, cheered Labour backbenchers.
Mr Michael Fabricant.
Michael Fabricant, the Conservative MP for Mid-Staffs, who looks for all the world as though he wears a wig, but won't admit it, could be described as
hair today, gone tomorrow.
Monday, 8th June. Your Majesty, your Secretary of State for Social Security, Harriet Harman, was first up for questions today. Poor Harriet. It is almost impossible to see her in action now without recalling the hatchet job done on her by the Observer newspaper last week. One really does wonder whether she is going to recover. Janet Anderson MP with humble duty reports Tuesday, 9th of June 1998. Your Secretary of State for Social Security, Harriet Harman, was even spotted in the smoking room buying rounds of drinks. Or at least one round, anyway. I can assure Your Majesty this is not a regular occurrence. Tuesday, 16th of June. Your Majesty.
Mr John Bercow.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Given that 89% of
Mr John Bercow introduced a 10-minute rule bill to prevent anyone who does not pay income tax or is resident outside the country from benefiting from legal aid. Seems rather sensible, but what a shame it had to be introduced by such a tiresome little man. Bercow constantly bores us with his attempts to be more clever than anyone else.
Almost 11% of average earnings in the United Kingdom, by contrast with a figure of only 3.5%.
Reeling off statistics and so on. So irritating did this become in a recent debate on sport that Labour wag Stephen Pound from Ealing was moved to comment, "Personally, I'd rather have a sex life."
And the author of those rather fruity revelations, Janet Anderson, is with us now. And we're also joined by the current occupant of that role, the Conservative MP Kris Hopkins. Well, you racy beast. What were you writing all those things to the Queen for?
Well, Jo, I thought she could read Hansard if she wanted a parliamentary report.
Yes.
And I did get the sense when I met her that she had a very good sense of humour, and I'm sure Kris would say the same. And I just thought she might appreciate some of the gossip. What went on in the bars and the tea room and what everyone was saying about each other. And I actually think she did.
Did she give you feedback?
Not directly. It's a one-way communication.
Yes.
But other people did. The Prime Minister did. Nicholas Soames did, actually, who's a great friend of the royal family. And also her private secretary, Robert Fellows, said to me how much she'd enjoyed it. And she used to read it, and still reads it, I assume, Kris, every evening before dinner.
Yes.
It's taken by a special messenger.
I bet, as aperitif, no doubt, before the main course arrives. Kris Hopkins, are you going to write these daily digests, which is the role of the Vice Chamberlain, to fill in the Queen with what's been happening in Parliament? Janet Anderson perhaps adopted a slightly more radical approach. Are you going to do the same?
Well, I've been doing it for a year, and the content of those will remain, of course, private, and it is a great privilege to write to Her Majesty. I understood, actually, it was against the Official Secrets Act to publish these, so I think there may be space in the Tower for you if they find out.
Well, and talking of the Tower, you get taken hostage, don't you,
Yeah.
by the Queen? Tell us about that in your role.
Oh, it's traumatic. I'm picked up by a car and fed a biscuit and a cup of coffee, I think.
Is it? Oh, is that as tortuous as it becomes?
To the palace. So,
And why do you do this?
Well, there was a slight problem a few years ago, a couple of centuries ago, where one member of the royal family came to the palace and didn't return. So I'm the hostage when the Queen comes back. I'm returned to Palace.
Right, and were you obviously safely returned, I presume, every time? What was it like being held at Her Majesty's pleasure?
Well, it was really interesting, actually, on the first occasion I did it. And I remember as they were leaving for Westminster, Prince Philip said to me, he said, if we don't come back safely, you get shot or something, don't you? And then he said...
He's so encouraging.
He said, but we won't be able to do that because you're going to ban handguns, which, of course, we did in the wake of that terrible tragedy at Dunblane. So they've both got a very good sense of humour, actually. They were great company.
Were they?
Yes.
So you obviously met
them
both.
And the Queen is very adept at making you feel at ease. You know, I remember my first morning in Buckingham Palace looking around and thinking, oh, my God, if my mother could see me now. But she is so good at that and so skilled. And if you think of the hundreds and thousands of people she has to make small talk with on an almost daily basis, and she really makes you feel that she's interested in you. She wants to hear what you have to say. It is a great skill.
Are you enjoying her birthday today?
Absolutely. I think it's wonderful.
90th year. Now, do you get a uniform in your role as Vice Chamberlain?
Morning suit, top hat. I'm 6'6", so with a top hat on, it's a bit ridiculous. And I get a wand of office as well.
A wand?
A wand of office.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, so you can perform magic tricks, can you,
well,
as well?
It feels like that sometimes. No, it's... I mean, when I was asked if I'd consider taking the job, my only rule was no tights. And unfortunately, I'm allowed trousers.
Oh, you are? So you got out of that little tradition. Do you get paid more?
Well, the role.
I mean, the
itself,
role, not you personally, but does the role?
The role actually comes as part of the government whip's office. I'm paid as a government whip. This is a ceremonial role as well.
Right. What's wrong with John Bercow?
It's almost the end of the programme.
Quickly.
I think John would be the first to say.
You should have asked that at 12.
You know, he could be quite difficult when he first came in, but he's much more popular now, and I think he's a very good speaker.
So you might want to re-edit some of those, but there it is, in fact. Dear Queen.
She's a diplomat as well. Sounds like a great read.
Thank you very much.